today we're back in the shop. We're going to be drilling, reaming, keying, and set screwing these gears. Now, these gears came to me with a 7/8 bore. We've got to open them up to 1 inch with a quarter inch key that we're going to be putting in there. We're also going to be putting a 1/4 inch set screws in it as well. So here you see me drilling these out. Now I'm drilling them out to get them a little bit closer to the 1 inch size. Now you could bore these, but for what these are doing and the amount of time it would take, it makes so much more sense. You want to drill them out, get them close to 1 inch, and then go back with a reamer. For those of you who don't know, a drill is not precise, so you can't just take a 1 inch drill and drill through it. More than likely, you're going to end up with it being over. It's going to be a horrible finish, and it really isn't going to last very well. So drill it out, get it close to size, and then come back with a reamer, finish it up. A reamer is going to give a nice clean finish. It's going to leave a smoother finish. It's going to leave a much more precise finish. You know, reamers are down to 1/2 thousandth and less. I mean, you can get reamers of various sizes depending on what you're doing, really down to the nitty-gritty of your tolerances. We're then going to take these things over and we're going to go to the press. And what I want to do is I'm going to put a plug and then I'm going to use a broach to put the key in it. And for those of you who don't know, a plug, nothing more than whatever the size of the part is, and then the idea of the part, and then this broach is going to be, in this case, is a 1/4 inch broach, and it's tapered. So it starts out a little bit smaller and it gets bigger as it gets to the end. And you just vertically press it down through your part until it comes out the bottom. Now, depending on the size, you'll have to either add shims or not have shims. In this case, it required 1 shim. Sometimes it may take 2 or 3 shims depending on what size key you're putting in there. But in this case, it only required 1. So when I do that, I also make sure that I lube up the back or the front side of the shim to make sure it doesn't grab, because I have had these in the past. If you ain't careful, that when you're pushing the broach through, it'll grab that shim and pull it through. And there it is with a key in it. So now, once we get done keying, we then head over to the drill press, and then we're going to put 2 holes in it at this point. So the first one we're going to put is going to be over the key. You want to make sure you hit over the top of where the key is, so when you put this on the shaft, you can actually lock this onto the key, and the key can't move in or out. And then you're going to go 90 degrees from the key and put another hole. And that way you've got everything nice and locked together. When it slides onto the shaft, you won't have any issues with it slipping or anything of that nature. Now you got to be careful drilling these, because when you get to the bottom, as it starts to come through, if you're not careful, that drill will grab and you can potentially break the drill. And you don't want to do that. Breaking the drill is not fun. I mean, sometimes they come out easy, sometimes they're a pain in the rear to get out. And there's not much you can do if it gets broke off in there, and it's not a fun thing to try to get. So now we're going to tap them. Now I'm going to use 2 taps. This first tap is a starting tap. So you have basically starting taps which have a much gradual taper up through them as you cut the threads. Makes it easier to start, makes it easier to get the threads going. Then you have what's known as a plug tap, which is basically in between that and a bottom tap. A bottom tap really has no starting threads. It's pretty much straight threads all the way up. And that's very difficult to get started. Generally you'll either start with a starting tap, or you can start with a plug tap and finish off with a bottoming tap. And sometimes you don't need a bottoming tap if you've got a part that's going all the way through. So in this case, I'm using a starting tap to get started. And you'll see I'll start working it back and forth, especially as I get further down in there. And that's to kind of get the chips to break. You don't want the chips clogging up, because if they get clogged up in there, or if you have a big chip gets hung up in there, you'll end up breaking the tap. And you're in the same situation you are when you have a drill break. Sometimes worse. So I'll run that through there, and then I'm actually going back with a pulley tap, because it was actually the only thing I had in the shop at the time that had enough threads that I could get all the way through. But this pulley tap, it's also got a longer neck on it, which is what you see. It's why it's sticking up so much. But I'll just run that through and make sure it goes all the way down and through to the bore. And here's the finished product. So the one on the right is the finished, and the one on the left is where we started with. We've got 2 set screws and a key and a 1 inch bore, and that's what they needed.